Hi, welcome to the Lexington Community Coalition Resource Show. We're here today interviewing two members of the Harrington Elementary faculty. We've got Angela Carpenter here, who is the music teacher, and I hear fabulous. And we have Carrie Donnelly, who is the social worker for Harrington Elementary.
Yes.
So welcome. The purpose of our interviews is to basically provide some information, some resources for the community that's watching this that may not be aware of what Harrington provides for its student body. So it's a really informative, casual conversation that we're going to be having. It's interesting. We've done one other with Dr. C, and we've done another one with one of our other members, and it's very informal. So everybody relax and let's just enjoy the information that we're providing to our community. So the first thing I want to mention is you both have been within Harrington about 3 years, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That seems to coincide with an evolution that happened, which moved from achievement-oriented success to more looking at the social emotional learning of children and incorporating that within the curriculum. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of that was spearheaded by Dr. Chakowski. Mm-hmm. So you guys were basically at the forefront of this change, mm-hmm. this shift. Can you talk to that shift and what you've observed and what activities Harrington provides to its students?
Yes. So coming to a district like Lexington, where we recognize the importance of social emotional learning has been a welcome change. I think coming from previous districts where there wasn't such a priority for social emotional learning has been really amazing. I think there's a huge emphasis on a social emotional curriculum. In all of our K through 5 classrooms, we as a counseling department have developed a counseling curriculum where we go into each classroom and we have identified themes. So each grade level is getting a different theme. In kindergarten, we're working on identifying and learning about different feelings. In first grade, we're continuing the identifying and expressing feelings, and then also they're starting to learn about different coping strategies, ways to manage more of those difficult feelings, like anger and frustration, things that they can do in the moment when they're experiencing those feelings. Grade 2, there's a focus on empathy, learning and defining what empathy is, and the importance about being empathetic, and also about there's an emphasis on collaboration and teamwork in that unit. Grade 3 is all about friendship, learning how to initiate new friendships, how to maintain previous friendships, and how to manage peer conflict. At grade 4, we are talking about stress management. Grade 4 tends to be a grade where they are experiencing lots of stressors. They're in their second year of MCAS. They're starting to think about middle school. So we talk a lot about what are common fourth grade stressors. In that unit, they learn about different parts of the brain and how stress affects the brain. And then they start learning about healthy coping strategies to manage that stress. And then in 5th grade, it's all about healthy decision making, learning how to be a good decision maker before they get to middle school, where peer pressure tends to be more prevalent. So that is our K through 5 curriculum that we're implementing in all of the elementary schools. And I think that has been very successful. Kids speak to, the common language that they're learning and, a lot of the strategies that they're learning, and teachers are seeing that carry to the next grade level, which has been great. Some of the other things that we're doing at Harrington in terms of social emotional learning, we have a PBIS program, which Angela is going to speak a little bit about, and responsive classroom, as well as some of our teachers are piloting a second step program this year. Which you may have heard of Open Circle. It's a similar kind of program that focuses on social emotional learning, but the teachers are teaching it. And this is great because kids are getting this on a weekly basis. They set aside time to talk about different themes and are giving kids, a chance to ask questions. Again, there's a common language that's used in that curriculum that teachers have really reported enjoying, and they're really seeing some positive changes in the classroom since they've been implementing that. So that's another change that's been really exciting.
Wonderful. You ran through the different grades and the things you're covering. Now, is that something the teachers are covering, or is that your counseling department?
Yes, so the counseling department, so social workers and counselors that are in every building are going into the classrooms, and we're actually delivering that curriculum.
Okay, wonderful.
And then in addition to that, teachers are always great about coming to us when there's other things going on in their classroom, so we can supplement lessons, and we go in and we're doing lessons on all kinds of themes throughout the year, but those are ones that every student gets. And then, if first grade, if there's parent conflict happening, that technically is third grade. We're not going to wait for them to get to third grade to start, intervening. So we would go in and do some classroom lessons on peer conflict if teachers were noticing that was a theme that they were struggling with.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're sort of receptive to what is happening in the environment.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
What's interesting is you mentioned in the beginning that you were sort of surprised and delighted that we're looking at social emotional learning for our students and the impact that it's making.
Yes.
Before we began, we ourselves talked about, are we going to remember all of our points and how the stress level diminishes our cognitive abilities. This is exactly what we're talking about, social emotional learning. If you can reduce and calm everybody down and have best practices and where people can express themselves, the students can express themselves when they're anxious or stressed, then you open up the ability to achieve even more because you have all that energy and bandwidth focused on learning rather than dealing with anxiety or whatever is going on in the classroom or the playground.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for noticing that. Now, in terms of your work, you're a music teacher, and music was definitely one of my favorite subjects growing up. Can you talk to how you're seeing social emotional learning in your classroom?
Absolutely. I think one of the greatest things about our school at Harrington is that there's so many teachers that are responsive classroom teachers. That's something that Lexington really focuses on. They give us training so we can take courses. There's I think a level 1, level 2, and I think there's a refresher course. And so I know a lot of our teachers in our buildings have taken those courses, and I think that you had spoken about common language. And I think that that's great because all of us who have had that training, we all speak the same way to our students. Instead of saying, I love how Carrie is, playing her instrument, you're saying, I notice that there are students who are playing the instruments carefully or respectfully or something like that, just to give the kids a little bit more ownership of what they're doing, and as opposed to saying someone is doing something. It's the community. I'm noticing that more people are doing the same thing. And I think it really helps to meet the students where they are at so that, it's not just the same person who's getting called out every class for being a role model student, but it's a lot of students at the same time. With responsive classroom, the students create their classroom roles. So rather than it being the teacher saying, okay, I want you to be quiet when this is happening, I want you to do this and this and this and this, in the beginning of the year, the class sits together and they come up with, these are the rules that we would like for our class and for our learning space. This is what we want our community to feel like. And I think that having that language really helps the students feel like they belong. They belong in the classroom and in specials and being able to kind of take their community, yes, from their classroom, but going to my classroom, and they're still part of a community. I've noticed, just coming to Lexington, this is my 3rd year here, I feel like the community, the student community is really strong, and I think the teachers, the classroom teachers do a really good job having that close-knit community so that when they are in the music room, they're not feeling worried about making a mistake in front of peers, or if someone needs help, they're going over and helping them learn a rhythm pattern on the instruments or something like that, and they're not just saying, oh, forget you, I'm just going to do my own thing. So that's a big shift coming from a different school, a different district. I've noticed is different at Harrington. But I think that as a whole school, we do a lot of PBIS, really giving those students a chance to earn something for a positive reason. At our whole school, we do a hawk sighting, so I brought one to show. So it's just a sheet of paper, but it says name, grade, and positive behavior. So what we do is we try to tie this to our HAWKS acronym. So H stands for honesty, A stands for acceptance. It used to be accountability. But we changed it last year to acceptance, to really accepting students for who they are, where they are, the kind of learner they might be, and how can you show acceptance towards and up here. Work, the W is for work, and K is for kindness, which is a big one for me, and then S is for self-control. So a teacher could do this, or a student could do this. So for instance, if I saw a student In the music room, we do a lot of instruments and we clean up at the very end of class. If, students clean up really well, but then they go and help someone else to clean up their things so that, collectively as a community, we can exit the music room on time. I'll jot someone's name down and say, so-and-so did a really nice job offering to help a friend clean up. So what happens is that teachers can write this or students could write this. So, if a student's playing with someone at recess, let's say, so they notice that they're playing alone and they say, hey, you want to come over and play with me? A student can go into the school and write, so-and-so came over and played with me at recess and it made me feel welcome and it made me feel nice. So what we do is we meet as a school once or twice a month, and we just randomly pick ones to be read. And then we also let the students at the assembly come up to the microphone and say, hey, this is a Hawk sighting that happened to me. I saw this happening. And it's just a way to highlight, the good things that are happening in our schools. And I think it's really nice because the kids celebrate each other.
Wonderful. So we've talked about Open Circle. We've made reference to Open Circle. We've made reference to the Hawk, which is wonderful. And we've made reference to responsive classroom. Do you know anything, or does Harrington incorporate the Windows and Mirrors program, which, if you can talk to what it is exactly and how it may be incorporated?
Yes. So I know over the summer there was a group of social workers and counselors who came together to look at that curriculum that had been previously implemented and to revise it. And so this year they are starting to roll that out at some of the elementary schools. And some of the themes that they've talked about in the Windows and Mirrors curriculum is all about acceptance and inclusion, identity, learning about your family and where your family comes from. And there's lots of different themes in that curriculum. And the district as a whole is looking at what are some next steps that we can take to make sure that this is rolled out at all of the elementary schools. Right now there's 2 schools who are currently piloting it, and then we're going to get together as a department and talk about what are some other ways that we can, tweak it and start rolling this out in all of the schools, which is exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
And then our librarian, she's terrific, Laura Kopinski. The past 2 years, I guess it's been a district librarian goal to find and purchase and promote books that act like Windows and Mirrors. So I asked her actually just to give me some examples of books that she had purchased for our library. And so one of them is Out of My Mind, and the other one is called Thunderboy Jr. And these are just books that, were purchased with the mindset of our student population is very diverse, and let's give these kids a chance to see themselves in these books, so that it's not just all right, well, this is a great story, but I don't see myself with this character. I don't see myself as this character. This isn't a situation I would find myself in. So I think it's great that they're working as a whole district to really support giving the kids a way to be empathetic towards another person.
Moving into the area of health education, I understand that there is sort of a one-off health class in grade 5 on puberty. Very important. But other than that, there aren't any health classes currently. There used to be, but they were eliminated. Now, is that something that you're revisiting or hoping to revisit, and how would that impact social emotional learning, augment it?
Sure. So having talked to our PE teacher, it sounds as though you are correct. It used to be implemented and then things just happened, and there's no longer a designated health teacher per se, but the PE department has done a fabulous job really intertwining certain units within their PE curriculum. So one of the 3 units that are currently being taught within the PE curriculum are fire safety prevention, overall wellness, and nutrition. And I know that this is something that's being discussed in school committee. Obviously having a designated time for social emotional learning and wellness is important. And I really liked what our principal, Donna, mentioned, that she thinks that every teacher, and I think that this is true, I think we're all health teachers. And I like the way that she said it. She said, I trust you to look out for the well-being of our students. If you see a student who's, not presenting in a way that you think that they should be presenting, or you notice something, to be looking out for them and to really, take care of them, because ultimately we are teachers as a building taking care of students.
To that end, I mean, you're looking at the whole child, really, and you're sort of gauging as teachers, you're the front line, and you see them, you interact with them, you see what issues are coming up, and you're responding to them. What support do you need, or would you like parents, the community, to give you as teachers in support of social emotional learning, or what would you love them to know?
I think that I would like them to know that we're doing a lot. I mean, really, I think that this is a really great opportunity for me to talk to a bunch of different teachers in our building to say, you know, what are you doing to support, you know, SEL in our school, social emotional learning? And I've uncovered some really cool things that we do with our ELL program, English learning, you know, students that, you know, need a little bit extra support with just language and what Marilyn does at our school to help them. So I think that I would just like to say that I think we're doing a really nice job.
Yeah.
We can always improve, of course, but I
Absolutely.
think that celebrating the positives with our Hawk sightings, I know that there are a bunch of teachers. We've got a first grade teacher who does a little incentive program just within her class, you know, with happening everything within their day. May it be like their morning meeting time. It could be just a transition from music to the classroom. But she gives them those little incentives to work as a community where they feel really empowered and saying, you know, we can do this. And if they don't do it, it's okay. It's a flexible, you know, incentive program where they don't feel completely down that they didn't achieve a goal, you know, that they're working towards it. Like our kindergarten teacher, Glenda Little's doing a whole year-round theme about kindness. You know, teaching our littlest kiddos, kindergartners, just how to be kind. You know, it's okay to smile at someone. It's okay to wave to someone. It's okay to say, you know, nice job on such and such, you know, just to give each other that little boost. I think we're doing some really cool things.
No, I agree. And to piggyback on that, I think the fourth grade team has done a really great job. They read the book Wonder this year, which is such a wonderful story.
The movie just
came out, and so we were saying how cool it would have been to then take them on a little field trip to go see the movie.
Cool.
But they all read the book, and I read the book. I cried throughout the entire book, and I was just, you know, thinking like, what a powerful message to send to all these kids. And so, you know, we had some organic conversations that came from it, and you know, and I really do think, like you said, it really talks about the importance of kindness and acceptance, and you know, and just how those small acts of kindness can go such a long way in a child's life. But I think speaking back to going back to your original question about how, you know, parents can support us and the community. One thing that I love that Harrington does is we send out newsletters and post them on our webpage about what's happening. And so I know for the K through 5 curriculum, whenever we cover one of those units, we send home a little blurb to parents to let them know this is what your child learned, ask them about it. These are some themes that you know, we went over. This is some language that they were, you know, taught, have some conversations with them. So I think just having those open conversations at home, I think, you know, so parents know what we're doing and can reach out, you know, to us if they have further concerns or questions. In addition to that, I think in such a high performing district like Lexington, there's a huge concern for anxiety and stress, and you know, coming from another district that was not so academic driven, you know, I think that's something that I have seen, you know, a lot of. So I love that we're doing some of that prevention work, like the K through 5 curriculum that we're going into the whole classroom, and there's a lot of tier 1 supports, you know, like we talked about, Second Step, the PBIS, and lots of things that we're doing, you know, to really to target the whole population, which is great. But I think just reminding parents to let kids be kids, you know, remind them that it's okay that they're not, you know, constantly scheduled. I think, you know, kids, sometimes parents want to always be providing activities for their kids to do to keep them busy. But I think remembering that they're kids and childhood goes by so quickly. So to let them be kids, let them have downtime, let them be creative and figure out what to do with their time instead of being overbooked and overscheduled. You know, I hear a lot of that. So I think a reminder about the importance of just being a child and enjoying some downtime.
And I think also the importance of it's okay to make a mistake. I think a lot of their anxiety in a high-performing district is I have to be perfect the entire time. And it's okay to make mistakes. I mean, I say this all the time in the music room. I'm the queen of mistakes. I make mistakes left and right. But it's us learning from the mistakes, or how do we recover from it? How do we grow from that? Like the growth mindset of the big push. everywhere, and just saying it's all right, we can do it, we can be kids, and we'll grow from it. I think that's a really important thing for parents to know.
I think that's a fabulous reminder, and it also sort of calls to mind for me the whole issue of kindness. It's almost like it's innate in kids. It's innate in all of us to be kind, to be creative, to be open. It's almost like it has to be, we were reminded.
Yes.
We have to remind ourselves, this is your actual innate nature. And we unlearn it, or we override it with a lot of rules or thinking. So that's fabulous that you're coming back and you're reminding it, particularly in light of the youth risk behavior survey that came out. I mean, this is certainly the results of that, where we were looking at the issues of loneliness, depression, and at the extreme suicide ideation in the middle school and the high school. I mean, this is what gave birth to the coalition, for one, and also I think this resurgence of social emotional learning and bringing that back into the curriculum and supporting our kids. Is that how you see it as well, that this data kind of helped to support the resurgence of this?
Definitely. I think it was very disturbing, looking at the results of the YBRS. And so, that was a big push for, creating this curriculum that targeted, our whole community rather than just, we're a tiered approach. So, we were doing a lot of the tier 2 and tier 3 work in school. So we were doing individual counseling sessions. We were doing group counseling, more focused sessions. Some common themes were anxiety. We did a bunch of groups for families of divorce. Stress management is another common one. Basic social skills. Fostering new friendships. So those are some common, some of the common groups that we run. But that stuff was already happening. That's stuff that a counselor or a social worker does on a daily basis. The teacher consultation, parent consultation. But I think what was new is just that those tier 1 supports. So, creating curriculums like Second Step for the teachers to implement, as well as the K-5 counseling curriculum that really focused on social emotional learning. Responsive classroom, like Angela talked about, a lot of the teachers are now, the majority of our teachers, I wish I knew a percentage, but there's a really high percentage of our teachers are trained in responsive classroom.
Even just having, the morning meeting, set the tone for the day, set the tone for the year. We are a community. Let's start off, greeting each other in a polite way, in a respectful way, getting to know each other with those icebreakers. I think that just helps to calm the anxiety of, oh my goodness, I have to talk to a peer during math time.
Absolutely.
But if they've already established, okay, this is how I talk to someone, that anxiety's gone. Then they can really focus on other things in the classroom.
Yeah. Another couple things that I thought of as we were chatting that Harrington does that has been wonderful additions to our community, I think, is we have a buddy bench this year, which is to promote inclusion at recess for kids who, are feeling lonely or don't have anyone to play with. They go and they sit on this bench. And if other kids see them sitting there, they know that means that they're feeling like they don't have anyone to play with. So it's that nonverbal signal that, I'm struggling here a little bit, but, kids don't always know how to say that. So, if a child sees another student sitting on that bench, then they go over and, say, hey, come join our game or come play with us, which has been really awesome to see. I've been able to see that on a firsthand. Firsthand, I've been able to go out to recess and observe this happening, and it's just amazing. We also, this year, with the help from the Lexington Education Foundation, we were able to get a grant for a tranquility garden. Because there are some kids who just don't want that hustle and bustle of recess where they're running around and playing tag and getting overstimulated. Some kids just need some downtime and they need a quiet place to go. We noticed that some kids were bringing books out to recess and they weren't really interacting with anybody. So what are some ways we were trying to think of ways that we could, create a space for those students where, they could go and have a quieter, recess time where they could reflect on their day or have a quiet conversation with, friends and kind of be separated from, the other kids playing football and tag and Foursquare. And so with the help from the LEF, we were able to create that tranquility garden. That's a really beautiful place, kind of separate. There's shrubs and bushes and flowers and benches and kindness rocks. And it's just a really peaceful environment for kids to enjoy during recess time, which has been wonderful.
I love that idea because it also promotes the idea of there's not just one cookie cutter type of student.
Right.
and it's all okay. It's all acceptable. We're all different, and acceptance is key. And, you know, one day you may feel like going in the Tranquility Garden, the next day you're out playing. Who cares?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
No questions asked.
Exactly. You be you. So that's wonderful. We sort of touched on this a little bit. We have a lot in Lexington. We have a lot of demographics that seem to be changing. So we're now getting more families where the first language may not be English. And I'm curious as to how you are accommodating or dealing with this in terms of support, the extra support that they may need, and how that plays out in Harrington.
Right. I was able to talk to our ELL teacher, Marilyn Freeman, so she gave me a lot of information about what she does here at Harrington, and she was very open in saying that each building is very different in terms of their support for students and also the needs in each building. So she was saying that we right now have a one full-time position and then a 0.3 position. And ultimately that's given, that extra 0.3 position has given her a little bit more flexibility with her scheduling, but ideally it would be great with the number of students that are moving in if that position could increase so she can really reach them. But she was noticing that the support, not necessarily for the students is lacking, but more the families. And I thought that that was really interesting that, you know, obviously as educators, we really do focus on the child. But to say, you know what about the families that are moving in here who don't know anybody, who might not be able to speak the language, probably don't speak the language, and how are we helping those families find families in the district, not even just in the Harrington community, but maybe in the Lexington community. And so she actually mentioned that there was a Korean PTA years and years and years ago that they were specific with finding new Korean families that were moving in their district and, you know, doing like dinners and like outreach things just to make them feel welcome in the district. And so she was saying it would be amazing if we could do something, not necessarily particularly for one culture, but even just an ELL community. And maybe there is that language barrier, but at least they feel like, okay, there are other new families moving into the district that don't really know the Harrington culture, don't know really the Lexington culture for that matter. So that was one thing from our conversation that I was like, wow, we should really, that would be something we could do that could really help and support those families.
I can think of several right off the top of my head who, you know, could benefit from that.
Yeah, that's a great observation, and I'm glad she
it was all her. It was great that she mentioned that.
And funny enough, the Community Coalition, we actually hold typically monthly coffees to welcome new members. And the partners that we have 20 plus partners, often they represent different demographics, the Korean, Chinese, all sorts of different groups are partnered with this coalition, and we often have representatives at those coffees, so they reach out to those new members of the community. So this is something else, so we can help each other.
Absolutely.
Bring that back to your school and let them know about our coffees, because we as well are trying to reach out to these families that may feel isolated and alone, and so they don't have the support that they feel they need, and as a result can't support their own child. But I think it's wonderful, you know, if we can all just catch the community members that seem to be falling and provide that support. It's amazing.
I mean, it's hard enough for the kids to be a new child in the school, but think about a new family who...
Can you imagine? Well, do you have any examples, for example, in music that you can talk to where social emotional learning has made a difference, or you've noticed something?
Sure. Well, I mean, even just from last year, we had an ELL student, so brand new to the school, didn't speak English at all, didn't understand anything, and you can think of this poor kiddo, first day of school, like thrown into music class going, oh my God, like what is this crazy lady doing, like, and standing in front of me. And this is what I find is so powerful about music, is that he did not understand any English. He didn't know what we were saying. He didn't know what I was saying. We were doing instruments and moving around, and he was just looking lost. And I said, okay, this is not helping this one child, because he's feeling really overwhelmed on his first day at Harrington. So I said, okay, let's pause. Let's just take out some rhythm cards. And so music is a common language. I mean, talking about the social emotional, his anxiety level was skyrocket high. Like it was high. He was feeling really uncomfortable, didn't understand what we were doing. And with just a quick little introduction, here's a quarter note. Have you seen these before? No. Okay. We say ta when you see this symbol. Okay, have you seen these before? No. Okay, we say TT, pair of eighth notes. Whenever you see the symbol, that's what you say. Just 2 quick syllables, and we were able to show rhythm cards. The students were just kind of, at this point, we're reinforcing what they already knew, but we were trying to catch this one student to really make him feel comfortable and to make him feel accepted, to make him feel like, okay, I'm part of this community now. Like I'm a Harrington student now. I'm not just an outsider looking in. And by the end of the class, he was like loving it, tapping along. And that just, for me, it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, like duh, I should have thought about that in the beginning of class. But it was one of those moments where I felt like, okay, the students were really, they were looking out for this kiddo, saying like, okay, let's help him out. Like, oh, no, this is like, that's a da, that's a quarter note. They were really helping him, and that shows kindness. And so I was able to say at the end of class, like seeing him beaming, like, I got this, like, this is, like, I understand it. And I was saying, look, kiddos, you supported a peer, a brand new peer, and now he's feeling successful in here. He's feeling welcomed. He's feeling like comfortable in this one setting where he probably, if I had just plowed ahead to my regular lesson plan, would have been completely overwhelmed. And that just would have been one of those like yucky feelings of going, man, I don't feel safe in this area. I don't feel safe in this room. So that's just one of those stories that it sticks in my mind, seeing his face changing from anxiety to, oh my goodness, I got this. Like, I feel like I'm buddy-buddy with these kiddos because I know what they're talking about. It was one of those really powerful moments for me as a teacher.
Beautiful. That's a great example. Any examples that you can think of or come to mind? Or
Yeah, I think, so thinking back why I got into this, field, just a quick little story. So it was actually a school psychologist who influenced me with my career choice. I didn't get to work with him, closely, but he had this program called It's Good to Care. And this was a million years ago when I was in elementary school. And so, I thought back and I remember going home to my mom and saying to her, like, what a powerful message, all his lessons were, and how one day I was going to have his job. And that's why I went into school counseling, is because I saw, the transformation with students and, what he was able to do. And I feel so fortunate to now, I look at how social emotional learning, how much further along we are with it. Back then he did a lot of like testing. He tested kids, who were referred for psychological evaluations, and that was the majority of his work. And he created this program, similar to our K-5 curriculum, which was unheard of back then, and so I love that now this is something that we're doing in all of our schools. You see, we have a school psychologist, we have a social worker, and we have a school counselor just in our own building, which is amazing. So we're really able to reach the whole student population, and so I wrote him a letter to let him know when I decided to do what I was going to do, and thanked him for kind of helping me to with my career choice, and what an impact he had on me. And I remember him writing me back, and he had no idea he had that impact on me because I didn't see him regularly. And so since then I've had letters from students, the ones I see on a regular basis who I know the impact. Those aren't the ones you always hear from. Sometimes you do, but I got a letter from a student years after I had worked with him, to say talk about some of the things that they had learned in those tier 1 supports, the K through 5, counseling curriculum, and saying how he was still using them in middle school. And I was like, how powerful. And this is a student I barely worked with. So I think that speaks volumes to what those tier 1 supports do. Kids who may have fallen through the cracks aren't, and you're targeting kids that, may not have been picked up for a tier 2 or tier 3 support, and they're getting something out of the curriculum and out of those tier 1 supports, which is wonderful to see.
That great examples, both of you. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to say, it seems you referenced the psychologist that you sort of guided you or inspired you, and it seems to me like the evolution, we've talked about this evolution, it almost seems like there's an evolution between seeing what's wrong with people and diagnosing to let's see what's right with everybody and the wellness in everybody and promote that and elevate that. So I just want to thank both of you, Angela and Carrie, for coming today and to discuss what Harrington is doing. And my goodness, you are there. And if you're an example of everybody there, we're in good hands.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.